Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to another City Boys Spotlight. In this episode, we will be covering none other than Atlanta United. Semi-historic team, we're going to get into all that, but first, as always, I'm joined by two of my best friends, Ethan and Grayson, and every week we bring you new MLS content, try to switch it up on you guys. So, first things first, Grayson, how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I just got off work, so I'm a little tired, but I'm always energized and excited when it comes to talking about the MLS and talking about ball with my homies. I gotta love it. Ethan, how are you doing today?
Have I ever mentioned that it's another day in paradise, gentlemen? It
A
is
few
so
times.
nice to be talking ball. It's getting to the late night hours here in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a little City Boys after dark on my end. So I'm excited for this edition. I'm also in some different garb than I would normally wear in my City Boys episodes. And frankly, it feels a little weird. I have got to be honest. I am not the biggest fan of how I look right now, but I have to give credit where it's due. This kid is nice.
The jersey is so nice.
Hey,
I
shout out
yeah,
to
I
my Uncle
can't
Bruce. Thank
can't
you.
hate. Can't hate. It's
Yeah,
too
you
clean.
look you look odd in it for sure, but the jersey does look fire, so we're giving you a pass on this one. But what I'm not going to give you a pass on is telling us the history of Atlanta United, brother.
Oh, Jacob, what a good one. Atlanta United FC joined the MLS in 2017 as the league's 22nd team. And in the past, there have been multiple efforts to bring the MLS to Atlanta, starting in 2008. But Atlanta fans really have, of all teams, the Winnipeg Jets to thank. That's right, the NHL team, the Winnipeg Jets. When the Atlanta Thrashers were relocated to Winnipeg in 2011, that reignited the efforts to bring an MLS team to Atlanta.
Hmm.
Who would have guessed? Thanks to
Yeah.
the Falcons owners' commitment to build a new stadium, now the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta was awarded a team in 2014, ready to kick off by 2017. The club's inaugural match would be played in front of over 55,000 fans at the Bobby Dodd Stadium located at Georgia Tech. That's a pretty impressive debut.
It's insane.
55K fans at a college stadium.
For an
Nuts.
MLS match.
Nonetheless, they moved into Mercedes-Benz Stadium in year one and proceeded to set an attendance record of over 67,000 fans.
Wow. Wow.
Absurd numbers.
Yeah,
Absurd.
for real.
Year two is when it gets really fun, though, because in 2018, Atlanta United would go on to win the MLS Cup. Two now legends of the club, Miguel Almiron and league MVP that season, Joseph Martinez, would light up the league as one of the most lethal pairs that the league has ever seen. Personally, I would put them up there with the likes of Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan, even Clint Dempsey and Obafemi Martins. Gentlemen,
Mm.
that is some high class company. What do you guys think? Was that duo really like that? Jacob, what do you think first?
I know. So at this time, our club that we support did not exist. So there wasn't a lot of reason for the three of us to watch the MLS. But I was tapping in on those Atlanta United highlights because those two were so electric together.
Oh yeah.
It felt like every single match they were doing something crazy together. So yeah, I think they were like that. They were garnering well due attention.
All right.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I also like comparatively to the other two duos that you mentioned, the Landon Donovan, Robbie Keane one, first of all, super star-studded. Both of them
Yeah.
legends, established legends that have played for many years. Uh, with Atlanta, both Josef Martinez and Miguel Almiron, I was completely unaware of. So both of them were like completely taking over the scene,
Definitely.
like right out of the blue. So I was very excited to see them tear it up. And I mean, they really did take the league by storm. It
No
was
doubt.
them and LAFC when they both joined the league. It was
Yeah.
a scary time. I was worried that every expansion team coming in is just immediately going for the cup. Immediately.
guaranteed to make the playoffs. Yeah, I did fail to mention that in their first year, they qualified for the playoffs, although they were eliminated by the Columbus Crew. So, pretty great company for these two players to be in. Of course, Miguel or Joseph Martinez was the MLS MVP that season. Just unbelievable scenes. Almiron would go on to transfer to Newcastle United for $27 million, making a big Premier League splash. And Martinez would actually go on to San Jose this summer, very recently, actually. So,
Mhm.
in the summer of 2025, he had joined Chicho Arango up in San Jose. So, be on the lookout for that strike force. They're going to be very good. However, I have a feeling we're going to hear more about Miguel Almiron just a little bit later. Uh, so if we had any guesses on the club's first coach, it would actually be a very familiar name. The now
Can I take a
former,
guess? Can I take a guess? Can I take a guess? All right, it's
uh,
either based on how these videos have gone. It's either Alexi Lalas
it could be.
or it's Bruce Arena. It's one of the two.
Hey, I would have also accepted Thomas Rongen because
Oh yeah,
somehow
yeah,
he's
yeah.
popped up a few
Yep,
times in
yep.
this, but it's actually a more recent manager. Inter Miami's old manager, Gerard Tata Martino.
Mm.
I
Good
honestly
eye.
forgot about that, but yeah, no, Tata has that championship pedigree in the MLS. Then Dutch legend Frank de Boer would actually go on to
Mm.
take over after him in 2019 when the club would then lift more silverware. That's right. In the club's third season, they lifted two trophies. That's 3 seasons, three trophies. In 2019, they brought home the Open Cup, a
Yes.
legendary competition, as well as the Campeones Cup they played that final against Club America and won.
Ooh.
A good W at
Yeah.
that.
Ooh.
Yep. From there, the club has mostly made the playoffs with some ups and downs. They finished 11th at one point. But one thing that no one can deny, the club has excelled in business. In 2024, the club sold Thiago Almada, who's, if you don't know, a very promising young Argentine player and the first ever active MLS player to be a World Cup winner. I thought
Yeah.
that was
That's actually
very
really cool.
interesting.
So cool.
He went on to pick up a transfer fee of $22 million that
Yeah,
Atlanta
light.
got to put in the bank account. I would have loved to see that check hit the bank.
Yeah.
With the additional sales of Georgios Giakoumakis
Oh yeah.
and Caleb Wiley, Atlanta had over $50 million to spend this summer. Grayson, what have they been up to with that money?
They've definitely been getting busy because they lost a lot of people. But Atlanta has really had a heavyweight squad since they were like even thought of. Their squad has been insane. Uh, but yeah, they had to do a bunch of moving after losing Giamakis. Thiago Almada, of course, moved to Botafogo before moving to France now. Caleb Wiley, who's now at loan at Watford, but signed to Chelsea. Come on. Hopefully he will get his chance because I want to see it. But last season, they picked up Bartosz Sliz from Legia Warsaw. Mateusz Klich, of course, Premier League pedigree, played with Leeds before, but they signed him from DC United. Last season, they also had Daniel Rios on loan, who he had a pretty good season. I think he had about 10 goals. But then, of course, late in the season, signing Alexei Miranchuk from Atalanta. He's very exciting. He did only get like 13 games at the end of the season, but very excited to see what he will do with a full season under his belt. They've done some absolute business, and I'm expecting them to be very competitive and even better than last season because, as Ethan mentioned, they have made some signings. Not as many as they did last year, but these are some very quality signings. Of course, their first signing, one man who used to star for Atlanta for only 2 seasons, 2017, 2018, 9 goals, 8 assists in his first year, improving to 13 goals and 11 assists Miguel Almiron. Moving to the Toon, he joined Newcastle, and he was really effective. And he was a big part of the club turning around to really what they are today. They used to be known in at least the Barclays Premier League era as kind of a bottom feeder that would bounce between the championship and the Prem, but now they're competing for Champions League places, and Miguel Almiron was instrumental in turning that club around. Then he did lose his starting spot, sadly, to Jacob Murphy, who is actually he's an absolute baller. So that being said,
Probably reasonable.
Miguel Almiron did earn his spot back in the MLS, and he is back with Atlanta. So I think he's gonna do an absolute job in the league this year. Second signing, brand new player. This one just broke a couple of days ago. Emmanuel Latelath has signed from Middlesbrough in the championship. He's currently injured, but before the injury, he was having a pretty successful start to the year. He had 11 goals and 3 assists, 18 goals last season. He seems to be an absolute pace merchant with a clinical finish on him. He is injured, so hopefully he'll work his way back into the squad sooner rather than later because Atlanta will need him. But in the meantime, they already have some quality goal getters on the squad. They do have Georgian right winger Saba Labhanidze,
You're right. Uh-huh.
Georgian. So struggle with the names there. Sorry, apologies. But he was Atlanta's top scorer last season. He had 11 goals and 3 assists in all competitions as a right winger. Pretty solid. They've also got Jamal Tayer he's their striker. He had like 8 goals last season. Pretty solid there. And then they did also make one other signing. They signed another right winger. They signed Japanese right winger Keiman Tagashi from Sagan Tosu in the Japanese Football League. We went over this. We mentioned how good Atlanta's defense was. I at least wanted to mention one of their defenders. Brooks Lennon was their highest rated player last year. He was their right back. I think he could captain the squad. He's such a solid player. That is all of their new signings. But their squad's pretty solid. And of course, I had to mention him, the bald beast, the legend in the back, Brad Guzan, still playing. He's 40 years old and he's still cooking in the MLS. They knocked out Inter Miami last season on the back of Brad Guzan's amazing goaltending. Bro's been playing so long, no one even remembers what he looked like when he had hair. Like, this dude is insane.
Former Premier League goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Brad Friedel, and Tim Howard are just from that amazing era of U.S. men's national team goalkeepers that maybe not paved the way, but maybe set the standard, I would say, for what we expect from the U.S. men's national team goalkeeper.
Is it at all wild to either of you that that era of goalkeepers, they were all bald?
I think I think maybe it was part of the deal to sell your
Was that
soul. You had to
was
shave
that
your
when the
head.
Bob Bradley era as well? So the manager was bald as
So
well.
the rest of the world, if they'd never seen a USA soccer game before, they just associated American men as
Bald.
being bald white dudes.
Michael Bradley,
We tried to blend in with the ball so that
hell of a strat.
but that is the squad wrap up for 2025. Jacob, how do you think this is going to play out on the field, though?
Okay, I've got some fun predictions lined out for Crossbar, but before we get there, gonna recap a little bit of how the end of their season went. to give us some more information before you decide on which lines you're taking. Um, Grayson alluded to it. Atlanta United finished ninth place last year, securing the final playoff spot, and they only secured it on goal difference. They were tied with DC United on points at 40 for the season. They had a 10, 10, and 14 record, scoring 46 goals and only allowing in 49. Do some math. That is a -3 goal difference.
It's pretty nice.
That is.
Um, it tied with third in least amount of goals against. And personally, I have been really excited to do this spotlight. Um, Literally because of the run that they had in 2024, winning the wild card round.
Yeah.
They won it in pens. Then they beat Miami in a best of three after losing the first game to Miami. Then they narrowly lost to Orlando 1-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinal. So with their additions of Almiron and Emmanuel Latte-Lath, it's making the predictions kind of tough. So I did kind of inflate the numbers a little
That's
bit.
wise. That's wise.
So crossbar, here we go. Sky it or bury it. First line over under 12 and a half wins. They ended last year with 10, but they did not have the likes of Almiron and Latte Loth. I'm going to start with Ethan since you're wearing the United kit, kind of look like an Atlanta United homer right now. Where do you think your new MLS team is going to
Ugh.
finish?
Let me stop you right there. I That's a good line, Jacob. 12 and a half, because 13 wins almost certainly puts them into the playoffs. And I don't know that actually, yeah. So I'll take I'm gonna sky it. I'm gonna sky it over the crossbar and take 13 wins at minimum for Atlanta. They, I think, slightly overperformed last season, and they have since improved their squad. So with factoring that in, I could see them getting their 13 wins. Grayson, what about you?
I'm skying it. I never sky my pens. This one I'm skying on purpose. I Atlanta last season had a very, very solid defense, and their attack was decent, and it's only getting better. I think it's gonna turn out very good for Atlanta this season. Very, very good.
We're gonna go 3 for 3 on Sky in it. I
Um,
personally am very high on Atlanta United for next season. I think the East is very winnable. We say this every time we talk about an Eastern Conference team. I think it's a very winnable conference. Would not surprise me if they're in the top four next year,
I can
and
see
that's
that.
gonna
wow.
require over 12 and a half wins. So I'm taking the over.
Wow.
Moving us into our next line. They had a fantastic defensive season, like you alluded to, Grayson, which is why we're going to go to you first. But the question, the crossbar, is set at 45 and a half goals conceded.
That's a good line.
I'm just a great sports book. Someone hire me.
You said they got 43 against last year?
They allowed in 49, so I actually reduced the number of goals they're going to allow in.
Oh, they led in 49. I am gonna
For
take the
context, the best team in goal difference last year only allowed 40.
Yeah, I'm taking the over just because I think that regardless, I think they're gonna let in more goals this year because their offense is better. I think you're adding players who are gonna be a lot more offensively minded, a little bit less defensively minded. Also, sometimes you push a lot of players forward. You get hit on counters a lot. So I think their defense is going to be worse this year, but their offense is going to be so much better. So
I appreciated you finding the logic in the middle of
thank you.
your answer there. I did that
Yeah,
in the last episode.
struggle.
I'm going to take the over on goals conceded. I think they will concede more goals because, frankly, I don't recognize their defense very well. I don't n- know the quality that exists on their defense. And unfortunately, the goalkeeper position is not a position where aging rewards you. So
Mm.
as good as Brad Guzan is, and I do rate his play, I rate him as a locker room presence. I would even appreciate that on St. Louis City. But I I think that will lead to more goals conceded.
The City Boys have yet to bury a penalty in this game because I am also going to take the over. Um, Only allowing in 49 last year is really impressive and also really, really difficult to replicate in back-to-back seasons. Not saying it couldn't be done, but it is just difficult. So I'm going to take the over on 45 and a half goals conceded. Now, new addition. At first, I had this as a single parter, but I'm going to now have it as a two-parter. Miguel Almiron's back. Emmanuel Latte Loth is there for the first time. I'm going to keep their goal contribution numbers the same just so everybody's brain can keep track of it. The crossbar is set at 14 and a half goal contributions. I'm going first because this is my segment. Based on how Emmanuel Latte Loth ended his season with Middlesbrough. I know he got injured, but like where that number stopped. And then with the previous season, I'm taking the over on Emmanuel Latte Loth. And I'm also going to take the over on Miguel Almiron. I think that is going to be a very similarly dynamic pairing that Almiron had with Joseph Martinez, who is also a pace merchant and also bags goals left and right. So I'm going to take the over, both of them, 14 and a half goal contributions. And then I'll shoot this one back over to the Atlanta United kit.
You know, Jacob, I'm actually going to bury our first shot of the night because I think that there is an adjustment period that comes with moving from any league to the MLS. Especially on paper, the championship might be a more quality league than the MLS, but I would argue that the Bundesliga is certainly a better league than the MLS. And we have seen from personal experience the adjustment that is to be made between the leagues. So I'm actually going to bury the under on Emmanuel Latte Late's goal contributions and take it right around 14 and or 13, which is a little sweaty of me, but because I do rate him as a player, I don't see any reason why he won't get double digit goals. I'm not sure if above 14 and a half goal contributions is in his future. However, Miguel Almiron, certainly 14 and a half goal contributions, whether that comes in the form of 10 assists and 5 goals or 7 and 8, some different combination of that. I think Almiron will impress coming back to reuniting at home. One more point, there's a lot of pressure on Latte Lath to be a great striker. And now that he's a club record, league record transfer fee, he's going to have a lot of eyes on him, certainly a target on his back. There's going to be good scouting reports on him throughout the defense. He's going to be man marked, no doubt about it. I don't know if he can meet that mark, Jacob.
Fair
Mm.
point, fair point. Grayson, it's up to you.
I agree with Ethan. I also think the coming back from the injury may affect how his season looks, but I believe that Miguel Almiron, coming from Premier League quality, Champions League quality at times, he's been consistent. He had two very consistent seasons for Newcastle. It's been some time since he's been trusted as a nail-on starter. He's gonna be the man at Atlanta. I definitely think he gets 14 plus. Probably, I think he matches his first goal tally when he came to MLS, which was 9 and 8. He had 9 goals and 8 assists. I think he will do that again. Latte Loth, I'm actually going to take the over. It's going to be tight, but I'm going to take the over. I think like
A
at
little
14.
switch up. So
At
that would still
14,
be
Uh,
that would still be the under.
then the under.
I'll still be the under. A very
He's
equally
at
sweaty under
14.
is Ethan,
Yeah, we're both
as
sweating
usual.
this one pretty hard, Grayson.
I think he
But
gets like 13 goals and 1 assist.
Just RBA across the box. Tap in, sweat. All right, I can't hate on any of those, but I might hate on the very last one. Probably the most important one as far as Atlanta United fans are concerned. Is
yeah,
this team a contender? Are they a playoff team? Are they on the bubble? Or are they in the bin, as Grayson says? And I'm stealing that because it is
It's
so
good.
cool.
It's fun.
Because Grayson kind of coined the term on this podcast, but not in actual life, I'm
That's
gonna
true.
take it over to you, brother.
Me?
Yeah, you got to start contenders,
Okay,
playoffs, bubbly, or bin.
you
Well,
pointed that way. Okay. I think Atlanta United, in my head, I was struggling between playoff and contender. I'm gonna just call them a playoff for now. I think they easily make the playoffs. I'm thinking maybe 56 points. I think they do it
that's
with
a
ease.
lot of points.
They do it with ease. But I think they will fall short in the playoffs.
Okay.
wow. This is I'm gonna agree with you, Grayson, that they are certainly a playoff team. There's no doubt in my mind that they can get into the top eight, like not even a wild card position for Atlanta.
I'm thinking fourth, honestly.
Yeah, Jacob, that prediction earlier, you kind of spoiled your prediction a little bit, Jacob. But I completely agree with that. Around fourth or fifth in the East is completely reasonable for them. And I'm trying to think of who honestly could compete for a title in the East outside of the Red Bulls, who managed to get there in the title. Um, and so it's possible they could be contending next season to put a second star on this. Potential if Latte Late
You don't know.
proves me wrong and hits the over on 14 and a half goal contributions, then I think that is reasonable to label them as a contender. Jacob, what about you?
Well, I slightly spoiled it earlier, saying that I don't see a reason this team couldn't be top four. And I'm doubling down on it. I have a lot of belief in this team. Last year, they were in the Eastern Conference semifinals with arguably a less impressive squad on paper and barely lost to Atlanta United, or sorry, Orlando City. And they've made improvements. I gotta put trust in Brad Guzan in the back. He at 40 years old still has that dog in him. It's an old dog, but it bites. With the goal contributions coming from Almiron, Latte Loth, solid squad. I'm putting them as contenders. I see them contending for the MLS Cup this year.
Well, all right. I'll say after a quick
Deal.
refresh of the Eastern Conference teams, Jacob, they will be competing against the likes of Cincinnati and Columbus, who we haven't covered in our series yet, but have made some major changes. At least Columbus has made one major change to their roster. So who knows who will be competing in the East? It is opening up very quickly, though. I think the MLS is going to be extremely competitive on the Eastern and Western side next season.
As we get higher up with the better teams as we go, it's going to be a lot harder to like really figure out who are the contenders and who are the pretenders, but I do have faith in
Mm.
this team.
All right. Let's see a top four finish from Atlanta then this season, maybe.
I would like to see a top two finish, home field advantage throughout playoffs.
I see it coming.
Do you want this
Mercedes-Benz,
jersey, bro?
dude, they're good, bro. Like I wasn't capping earlier when Almiron and Joseph Martinez had me tapping in to see what Atlanta United was
Uh,
up to. Because that was also around the time that St. Louis City had gotten denied a team. So it was like, well,
yeah.
we're never gonna get one. Might as well kind of put
What?
some
Who are these
feelers
guys
out
that got a team?
there. But yeah, all right, I'll stop glazing Atlanta United.
We talked about this in our last video. I think it's cool where Atlanta United plays. I know that Mercedes-Benz is sort of a multi-purpose stadium. It's not just a football stadium, but considering the Falcons and sometimes the Georgia Bulldogs play there, it's hard to not consider it that.
It's
But
also like super cool looking. Like it's very well designed and like really pops on the screen. I've never made it into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but watching an Atlanta United game is pleasing on the eye.
Frank,
I know one of the architects that worked on Mercedes-Benz.
Just a little
okay.
clout drop. All
Yeah,
right.
quick flex. Go off, King.
Whatever.
It has the potential to have an amazing playoff atmosphere, though. I feel like seeing an Atlanta United playoff game in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium would be an incredible experience. So, frankly, they owe that to the fans.
67,000 people.
That is the is that a World Cup host stadium?
Should be.
Mercedes-Benz? That is
I think
going
it
to
has to
be
be. I think it is.
yeah. All right, City Boys, we might need to pencil that one in. That's gonna be a good
We could pop
time.
out. We could pop out.
70,000 at Mercedes-Benz for a soccer game.
With
But
that being said, in order to send us to that game, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment if you are watching on YouTube. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you follow, rate 5 stars. You can also comment. Also, needs to be said, you know your team better than we know your team. Leave a comment if we missed anything. Be nice, though. You know who I'm talking to. And most importantly, tell your mother you love her. Peace. MLS.
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 MLS.